Some of the most important science to come out in the last couple of decades relates to the hot, crazy matrix. I erroneously called it a joke in one of my videos recently, and one of my commenters pointed out to me that the creators of the hot, crazy matrix were up for the Nobel Prize every year since its development. So for those people who take that too seriously, I apologize. But the hot, crazy matrix is really important because it identified what most men know to be true, in that there is a certain relationship between the attractiveness of a woman and the craziness of a woman. There is an exception, and that exception is identified in the hot, crazy matrix as the unicorn. The unicorn scores very high on the hot matrix. I think that's the vertical line, like a 9 or a 10, and about a 5 or even slightly less than a 5 on the crazy matrix. Now, I may be wrong. It may be that below a 5 doesn't actually exist, but I'm just doing this from memory. So excuse me if I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments. I'm sure you will. So today, what I want to identify are what are the real detailed characteristics of that unicorn. Crazy is just too broad a field, or too broad a word, and it's left open to interpretation, and we can all identify crazy in different ways. But finding a unicorn, or at least knowing what the characteristics of a unicorn are, I think could be very helpful. Because when I make other videos, and I've pointed out many of the shortcomings of women, or I try to identify what an ideal woman would be like, I'm told that I need to provide more detail, or that that's not possible. And I think that it is possible. I think that once you can identify what the positive characteristics of a healthy woman are, you can start looking for them, and you'll know them when you see them. So let's talk about unicorns. So the first characteristic of a real unicorn is she is going to be extremely confident in her own feminine frame. I know we talk about masculine frames a lot on this channel. We talk about what that means to build a masculine frame and to maintain it and to defend it to some extent. But there's also a feminine frame, and it is equally important. A woman who feels confident in her own femininity will, you won't find her exposing herself in ways that would be unbecoming on Instagram, for example. You won't find her on OnlyFans. You won't find her trying to measure herself up against other women, because she knows in her own mind that she is confident in her ability to attract the kind of man that she wants. She doesn't need to use sex as a weapon to achieve the things that she wants in a relationship. You'll notice right away that she looks you in the eyes when she talks. She manages herself in public with decorum. She's not glued to her phone all the time. These are just some of the signs that you will notice in a confident woman. She doesn't need a masculine facade in order to be confident in her own femininity. So women who take on a masculine persona in order to, find some frame are doing that as a substitute for their inability to find a natural feminine frame. So they try to mimic men and try to become more man-like in order to establish their personality in some way. And I think there are some women where maybe that is appropriate. You find some women that are, very masculine in their interests. But for the most part, you want to find a woman who feels confident and natural in her own femininity. And that is very difficult to do these days. But that's the first one. The next quality that's going to be very difficult to find is emotional balance. Ooh, that probably goes directly to the crazy. But emotional balance is something that is possible in a woman. And I think you need to really watch for that quality. You can identify it usually when you see a woman who's not easily upset, easily pushed to the edge, a woman who's not got high highs and low lows. That manic behavior that you see sometimes can be a little overwhelming. And it's a fine line between showing true, genuine happiness and acting out in ways that are inappropriate for the experience, whatever the experience is. I remember with my ex-wife, she would just show extreme happiness at times when it seemed like, it's okay, it's not like over the top, and then extreme sadness when things wouldn't go exactly right. So the ability to find a woman with emotional balance is probably one of the most important qualities that you need to find in a unicorn. And spiritual connectedness is also another very, very important one. Not only spiritually connected to you, but she has a profound spiritual underpinning so that she realizes that she is not the most powerful force in the universe, and that there's more to this life than meets the eye. If she understands that, then that kind of helps create a self-regulating power that will help maintain emotional balance and rational behavior, even when things go sideways. Now, all women are going to be emotional. There's no question about it. So what I'm talking about here are the emotions that are inappropriate for the experience, whatever the experience is, whatever the outcomes are, whatever is happening in her life. If her emotions are a match to that, then fine. But if her emotions seem out of context with what's going on, well, that's a red flag, and you can't have that. That's not a unicorn. So we're looking for a woman who is emotionally balanced and is able to manage situations, especially in public, rationally. Some red flags would be if she loses her shit when she's talking to a service person, like a waiter or someone in a hotel maid, that kind of thing. If she gets very angry in traffic. I remember I was on a date with this woman a long time ago, before I got married, and we were going to some music concert, a country music concert, and this guy cut me off. He was merging into traffic, coming off an off-ramp or on-ramp or whatever, and he cut me off. And she rolled down the window, flipped this guy off, and stuck her head out there and screamed at him as we're driving down the road. I had never seen behavior like that from a woman. It's like, what was that? And not only that, but now I've got to back that up. I don't know who she's screaming at. I don't know if that guy's got a gun. I don't know if he's going to be really pissed off. I mean, what the hell, That was not a unicorn. That is the opposite of unicorn behavior. So I'm not going to go too deep into empathy and compassion, because I think that's something that most women have, especially for children and dogs and cats and that sort of thing, maybe even old people. But definitely watch for it. I mean, if you see a woman who's lacking empathy and compassion, not your unicorn. Part of that feminine frame is embracing vulnerability as a strength. Now, this is contradictory to a lot of things that men consider attractive or consider important to men. But to women, this is a really valuable characteristic. If a woman understands that her vulnerability is a strength that she can use in a relationship to attract men, that is a very, very powerful woman. Because by making yourself vulnerable, you are kind of leaving yourself at the mercy of some other person to some degree, and then trusting in that person to do what's right. A woman who can do that confidently is special. That is a definite indication that you're looking at a potential unicorn. Authenticity obviously is a huge factor. You've got to find someone who's very comfortable in their own skin. They know who they are, they know what their strengths and weaknesses are, and they aren't afraid to talk about them. So if they feel like they are lacking in some way, having the comfort level, the comfort in your own skin, the authenticity, to own it is a huge strength. I mean, that's definitely a characteristic that you should look for in a unicorn. It's very uncommon, especially these days where everyone's trying to pretend to be something they're not. And women in particular are trying to put on this persona that is contrived completely. Now, men do it too. I'm not saying that it's only about women, but a unicorn will definitely be a very authentic person, and you will find that she is very comfortable in her skin. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. Softness and tenderness are critical elements of any unicorn. It's a positive, powerful, feminine energy, and it's something that you should be watching for in any woman that you are considering having a relationship with. But that softness and tenderness should also be combined with a level of resilience. Women these days do not seem to have a great deal of resilience. Now, sometimes men can misinterpret female resilience because women are emotional and they may cry or be upset about some set of circumstances that they're faced with. But their ability to push through anyway, that's the resilience that I'm looking for, is that ability to push through difficult times, even though it's very upsetting and hard to swallow. I think that if you can find that in a woman, you will find a powerful ally, someone that when things go bad, she'll have your back. And not only will she have your back, but she may find a path forward that you never thought of that could resolve the problem, whatever it may be. And that level of resilience is extremely valuable. I mean, that puts her, a 10 plus in my book. A unicorn has to be able to communicate effectively and isn't afraid to tell you what's on her mind or what she's feeling. If you're in a relationship with a woman, you want to be able to trust that she's going to tell you really what's going on. Too often times women will try to hide their emotions or hide their thoughts or try to play a game with you. And that bullshit just doesn't fly because it inevitably will sabotage your relationship. So good communication skills are critically important. Along with that comes creativity and intuition. So a woman who can communicate well should also be very intuitive about how you're feeling, and she may be able to understand the experiences that you're having. And of course that goes along with empathy, but also she should be intuitive about her behaviors under those circumstances. I know that kind of goes to emotional intelligence, but that intuition is a very powerful tool that women have that I think that men overlook in women. And I think it's one of those things that we really need to look for in a potential unicorn. Creativity, really good to have in terms of problem solving and finding ways to get creative at different times in your relationship to make things more entertaining, interesting, fun. You know what I mean. But a little bit of creativity goes a long way. A unicorn is going to have a lot of self-confidence without being arrogant or conceited. She will have boundaries, but she will also be yielding in a feminine way. She will be thoughtful and mindful of herself and people around her. She will show care and value the relationships of the people that are important to her in her life. She's not afraid of her own feminine energy. She's not afraid that people are going to try to take advantage of her. She knows who she is, and she doesn't fear life, people, the world in general. She's smart, but she's not condescending. She knows how to communicate with people appropriately at their levels without sounding like a bitch. She's mindful of herself and the people around her. She's very concerned that everyone is being treated appropriately for the conditions. She's a good mom. She knows how to manage children. She knows how to manage money, and she knows how to manage her man. A unicorn has got to have a really good sense of humor. She's got to have the ability to see the humor in life just in general and not take things too seriously. She should be able to laugh at herself, and she'd be able to poke fun at you, but do it in a way that doesn't bite. You know, it doesn't hurt. You know, she's able to laugh and be joyous and to experience life fully without blaming or making people feel like they're not good enough. That's a critical element, is being able to laugh without making fun of people or shaming people or degrading them in any way at all. Sense of humor is critical. And a woman without a good sense of humor is not a woman you want to spend very much time with. A woman who has a true appreciation for the simple things in life, that she doesn't need an enormous amount of entertainment to feel whole, that she can identify the simple pleasures in life as fulfilling and enough, that it's not about the amount of money you have or the amount of money you spend. It's about the quality of the time that you have. She recognizes that the most valuable asset any human being has is their time, and that anyone who's willing to spend their time with her is giving her their most valuable asset. And that asset is priceless. I mean, it comes without any way of establishing a value. So she recognizes and appreciates those simple things that that are truly priceless and truly have value, and not things that have price tags on them. If you can find a woman who embodies these characteristics, you're going to find a unicorn. You're going to find someone who is beautiful on the inside, no matter how she looks on the outside. And at the end of the day, that's what you're really looking for. Beauty is a passing thing. It's fun to date hot girls, there's no question about it. But at the end of the day, you really need to have a woman in your life that you can trust, and one who will enhance your life, one who will help you achieve a level of happiness that you would not have been able to achieve on your own. If you can find a woman like that, you will have found a true unicorn. Well, I'm not sure if any of this stuff is worthy of a Nobel Prize, but hopefully it will provide a little more detail than just lacking craziness. Because I think that the absence of craziness probably isn't specific enough to be a help when you're picking a potential partner in life. I mean, certainly it's a red flag, but it doesn't narrow it down enough, because you can get non-crazy and still end up with something you're not really happy with. So I hope you found that very, very helpful. But at the same time, if the Nobel Prize is available, I'm certainly free to fly to Stockholm and accept it. All right, you guys, I think that's all I got today. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you in the next video. And until then, stay healthy, and if you can, stay single.